Hi there, how are you? My name is Michael Rubenfeld. I am a Polish Canadian Jew who was living in Canada and has moved to Poland. I now live here in Poland, in particular Krakow, the city of Wawel and tourists. I've been living here for about 7 to 8 years, and I've been doing this YouTube channel for about 4 months, 5 months, I don't know. I lost track of time a little bit. And my reason for starting it is basically to be able to have a conversation about what it's like being a Jew living in Poland, but also, in particular, sharing my perspective, being the person that I am, having grown up in Canada as a Jew with a particular narrative around Poland, and now I am that same Jew who's moved here to Poland, and I gotta tell you, a lot of my perspective has changed as a result of moving here. And today, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but first I'd like to apologize for not making any longer videos for a while. And I say apologize as if you really care that much. I always find it funny when people on YouTube apologize to their subscribers with the notion that subscribers are somehow so deeply invested in your content that they just can't understand why you're not making videos for them. I don't think that's how you feel, but I like to believe that you do. I like to believe that you miss me, because frankly, I missed you. So I've been in pretty intense rehearsals for a new play that I'm looking forward to sharing with the world. I work with a director named Michael Rubenfeld, and we have made two shows together, one called Altaheim in Poznan and another one called Zanurzenie in Katowice, and now we are making our third together. It is called Time Shelter, or in Polish, Schron Przeciwczasowy, which, gotta tell you, is a mouthful for me. It's very loosely based on a book by a Bulgarian novelist called Time Shelter, and the novelist's name is Georgi Gospodinov. It won the International Booker Prize this year. And we are making a show very loosely, and when I say loose, I mean very loosely based on the book. We're going to be presenting it at the Kameralna stage on Starowiczna. And it's been a very long and very rewarding yet challenging process. I am the co-writer of the show with Marcin, and I also will perform in the show. And I've had the privilege of working at the Stade, which, for those who might know, is a great theater, a wonderful acting company too. I've also got the pleasure of working with Anna Dymna, who's in the performance, Jacek Romanowski, Małgosia Gałkowska, amongst several others. If you're in the show and you're watching this and I didn't mention you, I'm sorry. I think you're brilliant. And I love working with you. I love working with all of them. We open on March the 1st, and I'll say more about it closer to the time. I don't want to spend any more time talking on this video about that. What I do want to talk about is what I touched on earlier, which is the fact that the Jewish person that I am, and what I mean by that is the kind of Jew who grew up with a very negative narrative around Poland, has had his mind pretty drastically shifted as a result of my move here, as a result of education, talking to Polish people, and really kind of trying to do what I can to practice a much deeper level of empathy for Polish people than I ever thought I would. For lots of reasons. I live here. Of course, my wife is Polish. And something happened recently that I found really interesting. Well, for me it was interesting. So Radek Sikorski, who is the foreign minister for Poland, has been going to Germany. He's been in conversation with Germany about a lot of different things. And one of the main topics has been this question about whether Germany should give reparations to Poland for what happened during the war. And this is something that was actually brought up by the peace government. Now, that the way that the peace government did it was pretty aggressive and combative. Although, interestingly enough, I was not against their idea. I don't know how to calculate the amount of money that should be paid to Poland as a result of German atrocities here in Poland. Peace suggested 1.3 trillion zloty, which seems like a lot to me, but hey, if we all get a cut, why not? But one of the other things that Sikorski said was that the Germans seem to have a memory gap when it comes to Polish suffering. And by Polish suffering, I think he means non-Jewish Polish suffering. The Germans do not have a memory gap when it comes to Jewish suffering, which is true. There's a lot of energy being put on the suffering that Jews experienced at the hands of the Nazis, the Germans. But very little attention on the Poles, on the Polish people, the Poles who died, the Poles who suffered, the country that was thrust into poverty as a result of the war. My thought after reading it was, I really agree with him. I agree that it's weird and wrong that Germans spend as much. I agree that it's wrong that they have done as much as they have in Germany to focus on Jewish trauma, reparations, monuments, just endless amounts of education, and nothing on Poland and Polish people. It's really unfair. And I appreciated that Sikorski, when pressed about it, didn't back down. He didn't back down. He did say that he is not interested in creating more tension, unnecessary tension with Germany, because this was sort of Peace's way of dealing with things, to kind of turn it into a fight, which is strange, because you're not going to get anywhere by making somebody feel bad. I feel like Sikorski's tactic, and I guess the current government's tactic, is that it seems like the focus is on a desire towards positive relations, on a desire towards reconciliation, and in a desire towards justice. And I think that in this case, justice is a really interesting word, because what happened in Poland was unjust. I don't think you can look at the facts and question it. But there has been very little attempt at justice for Poland and Polish people. Now, of course, there's not been no attempts. There has been money, and there's been things that have come to Poland, and during communism, there were agreements signed by the communist government with Germany. But a lot of those agreements were signed because there was a pressure from Russia, whose focus was as much on East Germany and maintaining a stronghold there as it was on Poland. So basically, any agreements that were signed under really problematic circumstances, and they should be reconsidered. They should be. That's just the right, the humane thing to do. And what interested me about this, I guess on a personal level, was that there is no way that before moving to Poland I would have had so clear a perspective on what I felt was the right thing that Germany should do. I think I would have been like, why is Poland asking for this? This is crazy. But in fact, it's not. It's very sane. It's very logical. I don't know if 1.3 trillion is the right number, but certainly like reparations and justice for Poland would be very useful in terms of the reconciliatory possibilities between the two countries, just as there has been a lot of reconciliation between Jews and Germany. But there's no reason that can't exist between Poland and Germany, but Germany really earned it with Jewish people, and I believe it's their turn to earn it now with Poland. When I thought about what Sikorski said about the memory gap that Germans have around Polish suffering, it made me think about the memory gap that Jews have about Polish suffering. Then I thought, well, it's not actually a memory gap, right? Because I don't think Jews have the memory of Polish suffering, but they do have the gap. Jews were not able to perceive or think about the suffering that non-Jewish Polish people were experiencing during the war, because people were just trying to not die. And then after the war, there was just so much trauma that Jewish people experienced that they've just been trying to negotiate their own trauma. And when people are sort of focused on their own trauma, it's very difficult to see other people's trauma and to think about other people's trauma. And that's been a huge learning for me, moving to Poland. And I think it's also possible, because I'm second generation post-Holocaust, that I think that I'm emotionally in a space to be able to perceive the trauma of non-Jewish Polish people in a way that would have been difficult for previous generations to do. Of course, not impossible, and it's still very difficult for a lot of people of my generation, a lot of Jewish people, that is. But I think that there is something to be said for Jewish people also focusing on finding ways to close the gap in their memory of Polish suffering. Of course, it's more complicated, right? With Germany, they can just give money, right? Jewish people don't owe Poland money. So, of course, with Jewish people, it's more complicated because Jews don't owe Polish people money, whereas I think that Germans do. And so there's something very kind of practical. There's a practical exchange that can happen between Germans and Poles, between Germany and Poland. But for Jews in Poland, for Jewish people, and for non-Jewish Polish people, it's just, I think, learning and education and exchange and acts of reconciliation. And that's really a big part of why I'm even making this channel and why I do a lot of what I do. I'm very interested in reconciliation. And I'm interested in really for the sake of mental health in a lot of ways, because I just don't think it's healthy for grudges to be held. There's a lot of resentment, I feel, in this country, and there's also a lot of resentment that Jewish people have, and it's hard. It's hard on the body. It's hard on our mental health. It's hard on our emotional health. It's a hard thing to operate with as we're raising subsequent generations, and so it's something that I like to think about a lot as a parent, as someone who's moved here to Poland and who makes work in the art world as well as here on the social media world. And that's my video for today. It's a little long one, but hopefully a good one. I hope you stuck with me, and I really appreciate you being here with me and your patience as we try and navigate this wild world together. Thanks a lot. I love you all. And please like and subscribe if you like content like this and you want to follow me in the future. Bye-bye.